The snow fell gently outside the March household, blanketing Concord, Massachusetts, in a quiet hush. Inside, a fire crackled, casting a warm glow over four sisters, Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, huddled together in the parlor. It was Christmas Eve, 1861, and though the Civil War loomed heavy, their spirits flickered like the flames. Their father was away, serving as a chaplain in the Union Army, and money was scarce, but love bound them tight. Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents, grumbled Jo, sprawled across the rug, her long limbs tangled like a colt's. At 15, Jo, short for Josephine, was the family's firebrand, her dark hair cropped short in a fit of rebellion, her mind ablaze with stories she scribbled late at night. "It's so dreadful to be poor," sighed Meg, the eldest at 16. Her pretty face clouded. She smoothed her worn dress, dreaming of silk gowns and the luxuries her job as a governess couldn't buy. "I don't think it's dreadful," said Beth, her soft voice barely above a whisper. At 13, she sat at the old piano, her delicate fingers coaxing a faint melody. Beth's world was music and kindness, her frail frame housing a heart too big for her body. Amy, the youngest at 12, tossed her golden curls. "I wish we could each have something splendid," she said, sketching a flower in her little book. Amy's dreams were grand, her manners polished, though her nose, too flat for her liking, vexed her daily. Their mother, Marmee, entered, her face lined with care but bright with resolve. "My dears," she said, settling among them, "we have each other, and that's richer than any gift." She held a letter from their father, his words urging them to be brave, to grow strong in his absence. The girls listened, their eyes glistening, and vowed to try. The next morning, Christmas dawned gray but warm with purpose. Marmee proposed a sacrifice, their modest Christmas breakfast for the Hummels, a poor family nearby. The girls hesitated. Jo's stomach growled, but they packed their buckwheat and muffins into a basket. At the Hummels' shack, they found a mother and 6 children, shivering and hungry. The sisters' hearts swelled as they shared their meal, and when they returned home, their own hunger felt lighter. That evening, a surprise awaited. Old Mr. Lawrence, their wealthy neighbor, had sent a feast. Cakes, fruits, and even ice cream. The girls squealed, their table transformed into a banquet. Joe led a mock ceremony, dubbing it the Feast of the Four, and Beth played a merry tune. Laughter filled the house, a shield against want. Days passed, and the sisters fell into their routines. Meg trudged to the king's mansion to teach their spoiled children, her patience tested, but her dignity intact. Joe, meanwhile, played companion to Aunt March, their crotchety great-aunt, enduring her lectures for a few coins and access to her library. At home, Beth tended to her dolls and music, her quiet joy a balm, while Amy practiced her art and manners, determined to rise above their poverty. Joe's spirit, however, chafed. One afternoon, she stormed into the attic, her writing garret, as she called it. She flung herself onto an old sofa, muttering about stupid chores and no time for stories. The attic was her sanctuary, cluttered with books and inky pages. She pulled out her latest tale, a wild adventure of knights and villains, and read aloud, her voice rising with each dramatic twist. If only I could sell this, she sighed, dreaming of a publisher's check. Downstairs, Beth overheard and crept up. "It's splendid, Joe," she said shyly. "You'll be famous someday." Joe hugged her, Beth's faith a spark to her ambition. But when Meg called them for supper, Joe's mood soured again. "I'm tired of being poor," she muttered, stomping down. Marmee, ever watchful, gathered them after supper. "Each of you carries a burden," she said, her voice steady. "Meg, your pride in appearances. Joe, your restless spirit. Beth, your shyness. Amy, your longing for grandeur. These are your battles. Fight them with courage as your father fights his." The girls nodded, though Joe's jaw tightened. She wanted to conquer the world, not just her temper. That night, she wrote fiercely, her pen scratching until dawn. Spring arrived, softening the edges of their struggles. The sisters planned a play, a tradition born of Joe's imagination. In the parlor, they transformed old sheets into costumes and a wooden crate into a castle. Joe, as the villainous Roderigo, brandished a broomstick sword, while Meg played the heroine, her sighs overly dramatic. Beth supplied music, her fingers dancing over the piano, and Amy, as a dainty princess, recited her lines with flair. Laughter echoed, and for a moment their worries dissolved. But life pressed on. Meg returned from the King's one day, her face pale. Mrs. King accused me of neglecting her children, she said, tears welling. I work so hard. Joe, indignant, proposed a revolt, but Marmee urged patience. Prove your worth through kindness, she said. Meg straightened, resolved to try. Jo, meanwhile, faced her own trial. Aunt March demanded she read dull sermons instead of novels. I'd rather scrub floors. Jo fumed, but she complied, sneaking a book of Shakespeare under her apron. When Aunt March dozed off, Jo read Macbeth, her voice low but thrilling. She dreamed of a life where she could write and roam free. Beth's world grew quieter. She spent hours at the piano, her music a refuge, but her cough worsened. Marmee watched her closely, her brow furrowed. One day, Beth confided, I'm not afraid to be sick, but I hate worrying you all. Marmee held her close, her strength a silent promise. Amy, ever the artist, sketched her sisters, capturing Jo's scowl, Meg's grace, Beth's serenity. She longed for proper paints, but made do with charcoal. Someday, she told herself, I'll study in Paris. Her dreams were bold, but her heart was loyal. She slipped her best sketch under Beth's pillow, a gift of love. As summer neared, the sisters planned a picnic by the river. They packed bread, apples, and a jug of water, their laughter carrying them through the fields. Jo led the way, reciting poetry, while Meg carried the basket. Beth hummed, and Amy sketched the clouds. At the riverbank, they sprawled on a blanket, the sun warm on their faces. Jo told a story of pirates, her voice rising over the water's ripple. Meg braided Beth's hair, and Amy crowned herself with daisies. For that afternoon, they were simply sisters, their burdens light. But the world waited, with its trials and dreams, and the March girls would face it together, their hearts entwined. Summer bloomed, and the March household buzzed with energy. The river picnic lingered in the sisters' hearts, a memory of joy to cling to as challenges mounted. Meg, still smarting from Mrs. King's criticism, threw herself into her governess work, determined to prove her worth. Her patience won over the children, and Mrs. King softened, even gifting Meg a second-hand shawl. It's not silk, Meg told Jo, but it's mine. Jo, unimpressed by finery, grunted, her mind on her latest story. Jo's writing consumed her. She submitted a tale to a local newspaper, her heart pounding as she mailed it. Weeks later, a letter arrived. Her story was accepted with a payment of $2. "I'm a writer," she whooped, waving the check. The family celebrated, Marmie's eyes shining with pride. But Jo's triumph was tempered by Aunt March's scorn. "Scribbling nonsense," the old woman sniffed. Jo bit her tongue, vowing to prove her wrong. Beth's health grew frailer, her cough a constant shadow. She rarely left the house, her world shrinking to the parlor and her piano, yet her spirit remained bright. One day, old Mr. Lawrence, their neighbor, sent a gift, a small piano from his mansion. Beth's face lit up, her fingers trembling as she played a simple tune. "It's too much," she whispered, but Mr. Lawrence, moved by her music, insisted. Beth visited him daily, her quiet gratitude forging a bond. Amy, meanwhile, chased her artistic dreams. At school, she bartered sketches for limes, a fad among her classmates. When a teacher caught her, Amy was humiliated, her hand struck with a ruler. She returned home in tears, vowing never to return. Marmie, calm but firm, tutored her at home, encouraging her art. Amy painted a portrait of Marmie, her brushstrokes bold yet tender, and hung it proudly in the parlor. The war's shadow loomed. Letters from father were rare, each one read aloud, his words a lifeline. One evening, Marmie received a telegram. Father was ill, wounded in battle, and needed her in Washington. The sisters clung to her, fear in their eyes, but Marmie's resolve held firm. "I must go," she said. Jo, in a burst of sacrifice, cut her long hair, her one beauty, and sold it for $25 to fund the trip. "It'll grow back," she said, her voice steady despite Meg's gasps. With Marmie gone, the house felt empty. Meg took charge, her nurturing nature steadying them. Jo threw herself into chores, her energy a shield against worry. Beth played soft hymns, her music a prayer for father's recovery. Amy, determined to help, organized a fair with her classmates, raising a few dollars for the family. Their unity held them together, though anxiety gnawed. Laurie, Mr. Lawrence's grandson, became their ally. At 16, he was Jo's best friend, their tomboyish banter a constant. He brought books, firewood, and laughter, easing their burdens. One snowy night, he joined their play, acting as a prince in Jo's latest drama. The parlor rang with giggles, Beth's piano lilting, and for a moment the war felt far away. But Beth's health worsened. She caught a fever, her body too weak to fight. The sisters rallied, Meg brewing tea, Jo reading aloud, Amy fetching water. Laurie sent for a doctor, and Mr. Lawrence offered his carriage. Beth's fever broke, but her strength didn't return. She confided to Jo, "I don't think I'll ever be strong again." Jo held her, her fierce heart breaking. Marmee returned, Father's condition stable, but his recovery slow. She gathered her girls, her presence a balm. "You've been so brave," she said, her voice thick. The sisters shared their trials, Meg's patience, Jo's sacrifice, Beth's courage, Amy's efforts. Marmee's wisdom anchored them. Love and work will see us through. Winter returned, and Father came home, frail but alive. The March household brimmed with quiet joy. The sisters crowded around him, their voices soft, as if he might break. Father's eyes twinkled, his stories of camp life drawing laughter. "My little women," he called them, pride in his voice. The war still raged, but their family was whole. Meg's heart stirred. John Brooke, Laurie's tutor, had courted her quietly, his steady kindness winning her. At a New Year's party, he proposed. His words simple but earnest. Meg hesitated, her dreams of grandeur fading against his love. "Yes," she whispered, her face glowing. Jo, fiercely independent, scoffed at romance, but hugged Meg tightly, hiding her tears. Jo's writing flourished. She published more stories, her name in print a thrill. A Boston editor offered feedback, urging her to write from her heart. Jo began a novel, drawing on her sisters' lives, Meg's grace, Beth's music, Amy's dreams, her own fire. Late nights in the attic, she poured her soul onto the page, her pen a sword against doubt. Beth's decline was gentle but relentless. She spent days in a chair by the fire, her piano silent. One spring morning, she called the sisters to her. "I'm not afraid," she said, her voice clear. "I've loved you all so much." They held her, their tears falling as she slipped away. The house grew still, Beth's absence a wound. Marmee's strength held them, her grief tempered by faith. Amy, now 15, seized a chance to grow. Aunt March offered her a trip to Europe, recognizing her artistic talent. Amy accepted, her heart torn, but her ambition alight. She sailed away, promising letters filled with sketches. In Paris, she studied art, her work gaining praise. Yet she wrote of missing home, her sisters' faces in every canvas. Jo struggled with Beth's loss. She wandered the attic, her novel stalled. Laurie, now a college student, confessed his love, his eyes pleading. Jo, shaken, refused him. "I can't love you that way," she said, her voice firm. Laurie left for Europe, heartbroken, and Jo felt the weight of her choice. Marmee comforted her. "Your path is your own, Jo." Inspired, Jo finished her novel, sending it to a publisher. Months later, an acceptance arrived with a modest advance. "For Beth," Jo whispered, clutching the letter. She moved to New York, boarding with a kind family, teaching and writing. Her stories grew bolder, her voice stronger as she carved a place in the world. Meg married John, their wedding simple but joyful. They settled nearby, their home modest but warm. Meg's days filled with love and work, her dreams reshaped by reality. Jo visited, teasing John, but admiring Meg's happiness. Amy returned from Europe, refined and radiant, her art blossoming. She and Laurie reunited, fell in love, their bond gentle but deep. Years passed, and the sisters gathered at the March home, now a school for boys. Run by Jo and her husband, a German professor she'd met in New York. Meg arrived with her twins, Amy with her daughter, Laurie at her side. Father, gray but strong, blessed the meal, Marmee's smile radiant. Jo looked around, her heart full. Her novel, published and cherished, sat on the table, a testament to their lives. The fire crackled as it had years ago when 4 girls dreamed through a war. They were women now, their paths divergent, but their love unbroken. Jo spoke, her voice steady. "We've fought our battles, and we've won." The room hummed with agreement, their laughter rising, a song of resilience and home.